Hi guys. This is part 2 of chapter 10, and one of the things that I forgot to talk to you about was in this particular slide, the communicating a romantic relationship, the marital types. And I think that I wanted to just emphasize that we have, a lot of us have come from traditional marital types, but this little section right here is very interesting, and the way it will sort of begin to change for your generation versus mine should prove very interesting. I came up from a very independent minded family. My mother was, at first we were probably traditional, but my mom and dad divorced when I was 10 or 11. And then, actually, it was probably earlier than that. And I did have traditional examples in my grandparents. She took care of everything in the house. My grandfather farmed, but she also was extremely independent as well. My grandmother, having served on boards, so I saw like a whole bunch of things. But however, my ex-husband came from a very traditional 1980s family, so his mom was expected to put the dinner on the table and work full time as well, and did every single bit of the cooking, the cleaning, the taking care of the emotional workload that comes with being a woman in a traditional marriage. And so when we married and we brought all of this together, it was a lot of chaos. So we had a hard time differentiating. Most of our marital issues did come, honestly, if you pulled on the roots, a lot of it would have come from this. The fact that I did not want to be a traditional housewifey type. Nothing, there's anything wrong with that. But it was not something that I wanted for myself. And, but at the same time, my ex-husband did expect me to be like his mother, where I was traditionally responsible for everything, cooking, cleaning, childcare, all of that, in addition to also bringing home half the amount of money for our household. So consequently, this is sort of the predicament that most of my friends are in as well, and a lot of my family members. So this is a very interesting thing to see how it pans out for your generation and generations going forward, because that the equality needs to be met in the household now as well, and the household responsibilities. So now I'm going to skip to right here, where we're going to talk about communicating in families, what makes a family. And I'm going to do this very quick, so that you guys don't have to listen to me talk this whole time. But what makes a family is it's very different for all different people. I think I've said that we've always had people live with us, and that has become a part of our family. Those people have become a part of our family. So genetic ties, legal obligations, role behaviors, that makes up a family. For us, we had people who lived with us that were newly married. We had what I call our Korean Jewish barista, which is Micah. If you guys know Micah, everybody knew Micah for a while here in Longmont. He lived with us. We've had a fabulous gal that lived with us from Alaska. She was fascinating and fun, and they all have become a part of our family, which has been wonderful. So it has given me. I did that on purpose because I wanted my kids to have an idea of different people. So each one of them brought to our family something completely different traditions and different points of view. Let's see. Communicating in families enact roles. Family roles are functions that people serve in a family system. They have 4 roles that commonly occur during or emerge during conflict: the blamer, the placater, the computer, and the distractor. And I would really encourage you to look up some of these and see where you fit. I grew up being the placater, or the distractor. I would distract people with humor, and then the conflict would start to go away. It doesn't always serve you well to be any of those in particular. Communicating in families also involves a lot of rituals. This is my son's 16th birthday. For every single birthday, my children would add another pancake. So there are 16 pancakes here. They're repetitive activities that have special meaning for the family. Some rituals are imported and we imported a lot of rituals from the people that lived with us. So they became a part of our family rituals as well. When you're communicating in families, we tell stories. Family stories give a sense of belonging and a sense of the history of who we are. They're told and retold. I know, interestingly enough, I know a lot about the history of my aunts and uncles who were crazy and wild during World War II. So they also convey an underlying message about who the family is. And one of those things is just this past Sunday for Easter, we talked a lot about different stories about, do you remember when we did this? Do you remember when we climbed to the top of the haystack and mom told us not to, or whatever? So families share secrets. Some secrets they intentionally keep from each other or from others outside of the family, and some secrets are also kept within the families. In other words, I guess we're switching. Yes, I did know that. We're switching gears. We're switching to communicating in the workplace, and social relationships can form between coworkers, which you know, right? There are friendships that can form between coworkers, and then also romantic relationships can form between coworkers. But this can be a big problem very, very quickly. So let's see here. Communicating in the workplace, when you've got a superior, it is very awkward. It can be very awkward very quickly. And then they can eventually cause sexual harassment. It is, having been on the receiving end of that with a coworker who was my superior, I can tell you that it is a minefield that I would suggest to you. Your boundaries have to be very clear. And granted, this was in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And so my boundaries weren't clear. I did not know how to set them, and I did not know how to communicate them when they were being crossed. Communicating in the workplace with clients is also that when you have social relationships that can form with clients. I have lots of relationships with clients that I have, and part of my business relies upon the ability to form those relationships so that they remember who I am as a real estate agent. This person right here is actually my acupuncturist. And the reason why I put her on the slide is because she was, her name's Daisy. She's fantastic acupuncturist, right? But we were friends first. And so we have done things outside of, I consider her a very close friend. So we've done things outside of me being her client, and she gets really torn up about it. And she goes back and forth in her head. She's like, I'm not supposed to do this. I'm supposed to, have this wall between myself and my clients and not pursue relationships that are fun and outside of that, because it is discouraged. Lastly, there are 2 slides left here. We're communicating in the workplace. We have tips. Learn to follow the organization's policies for electronic communication. Yeah. Use electronic communication for convenience, not as a shield. Don't write in an email what you wouldn't say to a person in person. Yes, please don't. Remember that electronic communication leaves a trail. Take advantage of the communication trail when it benefits you to do so, and know your audience. Upward, downward, lateral communication. So in other words, who are you talking to? If it's a superior, your language needs to be different. If it's a person who's a peer, that's a different thing too. And if you're the one who's the boss of something, your audience, your communication needs to reflect each one of those particular instances. Probably the biggest thing I want to say when you go back to this is, I'll just tell you a story about when I worked for Frontier Airlines for a while. I was in the customer service department, and it was right when they were doing the internet. It was just starting to be a thing where people could get on and, type in and book themselves. So they only trained the guys because only the men could figure out, apparently, how to work the internet. And so they only trained the guys on how to help customer service, basically service the customers for the online bookings for the internet. I mean, we were not online. We were literally the people who answered your calls. So that's how it was done before, right? You called into Frontier Airlines and you got a real person and they booked your flight for you. So the internet was starting. These guys were over there. Well, these guys had a problem with porn. They would watch porn on their computers, and they did not realize that what was happening on their screen could be tracked. And there were about 6 of them from my class my training class that got sent over to the internet, and then all of them got fired. So you do want to make sure that you have followed the policies and that everything that you do electronically can be perceived as profitable for the company and on the up and up. So I think that's about it, guys. Hopefully this is a good start, and we'll for part 2. And call me if you have any questions. Please call me if you have any questions. Thank you.